Hey everybody, welcome back. So a week or so ago, a brand new version of Cura came out. We went from 4.9 point whatever subversion they had to 4.10.0. And if you'll look, you'll see I have it installed, help, and about 4.10.0. Now I have a fairly long history with Cura. When I bought my first Ender 3, it is what it came with, and I have used Cura ever since. It's what I learned slicing on, and I've always, because of that, I think I've always felt comfortable with it, like I had a handle on it. And because of one particular functionality, one setting it has in it called Make Overhangs Printable, I keep coming back to Cura because I find Make Overhangs Printable to be really, really good. It's something I really like. But one problem I have always had with Cura is the top layer quality. I have always gotten in some prints gaps and cracks in the top layer. And this is not just me. This happens with a lot of people. I have talked to other people who've had it. I've communicated with Cura and they've given me some settings to help, and I've developed other settings. And before you guys give me yours, and I appreciate you guys comments and suggestions, but please watch the video. I'm just now linking in the cards for my top layer shootout where you can see the problem, because I've thrown all of my previous pieces away. You can see the problem and you can see all the tweaks I've done in Cura to make that problem go away. It is best illustrated with something like you're seeing on the screen now, where there is a square object with a round hole and a flat top surface between the square object and the round hole. And the fillets don't make a bit of difference. It could be square filleted on the corners. So, and you can see this object here is just a small section, kind of a test piece of something bigger I made. Like this is something I made. My wife is a vapor, and this, when you take the tank that has the juice off the off the body with that of the vape, which has the batteries and the heater and everything in it, it has a pin that sticks out the bottom and you can't stand it up, and it's filled with juice and it'll tip over. Plus, she keeps different ones filled with different flavors of juice. So this just kind of keeps them all organized and standing upright so they don't leak. So I always had a problem getting these printed without getting cracks and gaps in the top, and I have made a bunch of those for a bunch of different people. Not so much anymore, but nonetheless I still make them from time to time. So let's see, and go look at those videos that I linked. Cura does it. It's done it for me across all four of my printers, two Ender 3s, a Geetek A10M, and an Alpha YZ20. Plus, it's even done it after firmware and motherboard upgrades on those. So it's kind of hard to blame hardware for this. And I know the guys at Cura aren't happy with it. There have been some master versions that have not done it. But watch those top layer shootout videos of mine. You'll see that other slicers don't do it at all, and they don't do it. You don't have to tweak anything. Cura, you got to tweak a bunch, or at least I've had to tweak a bunch in the past to make this problem go away. And I've been using Prusa Slicer more and more, except, that Make Overhangs Printable keeps bringing me back to Cura. So let's take a look at our settings. I am using Cura's built-in draft mode, which is just 0.2 layers. I don't want any of my special tweaks in it because I want to see if it does it right out of the box, so to speak. So 0.2 layers, 0.15 initial layer, line width 0.4. It's got two walls. It's got 4 top and bottom layers. Default is no top surface skin layers. Skin overlap and skin overlap percentage is all default. Ironing is off. Extra skin wall count is 1. This is all the stock stuff. Infill density 20. It's a grid. Print temperature is 200, which is a little lower. I normally print at 210, but 200 prints fine. Build plate temperature is 60. I normally use 50, but that doesn't make a bit of difference either. Print speed is 60. Initial layer speed is 30. Normally, I also adjust print acceleration and jerk because my old Ender 3 had a problem with skipping steps. If I did not slow this acceleration and jerk to some extent, it also makes for a much smoother print. a much smoother sounding print job. You know, the machine sounds smoother. Retraction is on, distance is 0.8, retract speed is 0.35. None of the rest of this should matter. Combing, how is combing sent? Because combing has something to do with this too. Combing mode is set by default to all. So enable print cooling 100%. I normally run my cooling fan at 80. We'll leave it at 100 because again, I'm not going to change anything. And surface mode is normal. I have a bunch of settings um, set to not be invisible, so or set to be visible would be a better way to say it. So but their changes, I have not made any changes in them from this default profile. So all this stuff should be just the way it came. And we're on my Getek A10M because that's what I'm going to use. And it's going to take an hour and 20 minutes to print. So I'm going to move you over to the printer and we're going to give this a shot.
Okay, so here we go. This is the printer in question. I have a transparent, kind of is transparent-ish PLA on Extruder 2. And this is the Getek A10M. Upgrades to it, just for disclosure, I've got Creality style dual gear extruders. I've got the 3D touch bed level sensor on it, and it has a SKR 1.4 turbo board in it and 2209 steppers, and I've got a Creality spring steel PEI sheet, and I usually put a light dusting of hairspray on it just to make sure it sticks. The printer is preheated. I don't know if you can see this. Let's zoom down, see if we can do it. Ah, there we go. That's pretty good. The printer is preheated to 260, and I have the mix, sorry, my big finger, at 0 and 100, meaning we are going to be printing completely out of the, I guess I better zoom back out of that whitish, transparentish Jaris PLA. So let's get this show on the road. Okay, it's done. Let's have a look at it. And I gotta say, I'm not seeing the issue at all anywhere. It looks perfect. Now I realize after I started this that translucent probably isn't the best for this. But as the light reflects across it, if there were any gaps or cracks at all, I think it would be visible. And I gotta say, I'm not seeing any at all. Honestly, from what I remember of the other ones, this one almost looks like it was sliced in Idea Maker. It has that same appearance to it. You know what? Let's print another one in a different color. You know what? I could also take this out and just put a light dusting of primer on it. And I think that would show us too. Let's try that first. Okay, so here's that part with a very light dusting of gray primer on it. And I gotta tell you, it is not perfect. If you look around that hole there, you will see there's a crack all the way around that hole. And there is also, is there? No, the outer perimeter looks perfect. It really does. The perimeter around the outer part of the body, and also the perimeter around the main circle looks perfect as well. I don't see a problem there at all. But the perimeter around the small hole is still got a pretty good sized gap in it. You know what let's do? Since this Getek A10M has had the board upgraded to an SKR 1.4, one of my Ender 3s, while it does have some upgrades on it, still has the factory board in it. So let's try one on that as well. Okay, those of you familiar with my channel will recognize this Ender 3. This was my introduction to 3D printing. This was one of the first batch of 500 Ender 3s. I had made up my mind I was going to get into 3D printing several months before I did. And when I heard about the Ender 3, I pre-ordered it and just waited till they were released. This is the same Jarvis transparent filament, and this printer, for full disclosure, this printer has had some upgrades. It does have the still have the original Creality 1.0 control board in it. That has not changed, but I'm using mirror and hairspray for a bed. It's got that dual gear Creality style extruder on it. It has the stock hot end on it, but it does have the Pet's Fang cooler and some aftermarket fans and a couple of filament guides. Other than that, it is, well, I won't say other than all those. It doesn't make any sense to say other than all those upgrades it's a stock printer, because it's not a stock printer. Okay, it's done. Let's have a look at it. Jeez. All right. So, pretty much the same thing. It actually looks really good at first glance. If you look at it with the light shining across it, the top surfaces seem to be very complete. But it doesn't show up on this quite as well as it does on the solid colors. So let's do the same thing we did with this one. Let's give it just a quick hazing of a gray primer, and that will really make it show up. But I have to admit, that's about as best as I've ever seen Cura do without lots of tweaks. So let's go give it that quick hazing of primer and let's see what we get. Okay, so here's the one off the Ender 3 here, and I just did the same thing I did with it with the other one, and I gotta say, this is possibly the nicest top layer I have ever seen on this particular object out of Cura that didn't have a lot of tweaks in it. So it just makes me wonder how good I'm actually going to be able to get when I start putting those tweaks back in. There is not, that I can really tell, not a serious gap anywhere on it. Now, two prints don't really tell the whole story. I'm not going to print a whole lot of these, but this is, I've never been able to do this good before without quite a few tweaks in it. Here's the one off of the G-Tech, and you can see I did get some, it's not so much as a gap or a crack, but it's just like it didn't quite close up that that area around these inner holes, mainly this one. There's a layer right under there, so it's more like a slight depression than a crack, but there is nothing around these outer perimeters on either piece. So yeah, hats off to Ultimaker. They did apparently in this update do something that improved that significantly. I'm sure I'll discover more of that in the future, and if things change, I will let you know. But if you want to know what the previous ones look like, please go back and look at that top layer shootout series I did. The link is in the cards. And because I did throw all those pieces away, just like I'll probably throw these away as well. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you're a Cura user, hope you're using the latest version, because it really does seem to work quite well. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe. It is the 9th, and I will be back tomorrow, or tomorrow will be Saturday. I'll be back either tomorrow or Sunday with an update on the prints that are out in the god-awful heat and UV. Today it is 212 out with a UV rating of 12. So hopefully we're getting some changes out there. Talk to you soon. Bye for now.